Afternoon, everyone. We'd like to call the meeting to order for October 18, 2022. At this time, would ask Ms. Cindy to have roll call.
Ms. Richards, Mr. Toller,
Here.
Ms. Abrams,
Here.
Mr. Westmoreland,
Present.
Mr. Duncan,
Here.
Mr. Bush,
Here.
Here.
Mr. Moore,
Here.
Ms. Simmons,
Here.
Ms. Dominguez.
Present.
At this time, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll ask Mr. Jerry Moore to lead us. We'll ask everyone to stand.
Okay, at this time, we have some of the students from Greenville Park Academy. Kyla Hayes, who's going to come. Is there more than one student? There's more than one student. Okay, so we're going to have just one? Okay, all right. So what is the other young man's name? Demario Stewart. So we're going to have Mr. Demario Stewart and Mr. Kyla Hayes lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank Mr.
Well,
Jerry Moore.
okay, and we also have from Hammond High, Reagan Hoover, who is going to do the national anthem. Is she here?
Yes, she is.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proud we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, words so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land and of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Raylan and Reagan and Kyler, and thank you, and the other student, and thank you, Mr. Kyles and Mr. Matthews, for making sure that we had students to represent us tonight.
Very good. Yep, very good. Excellent. Moving on to consider approval of the board minutes from September 20, 2022. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Sandra Simmons.
Second.
Second by Ms. Rose Dominguez. Any discussion? Call for vote.
Voting is open.
Yes.
Anytime, yeah, when she's up.
There you go. You got me. It wasn't coming up, but I got it came up.
You vote yes, Ms. Abrams. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Next, we'll consider approval of the board minutes of September 22, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Kohler, second by Ms. Simmons. Any discussion? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Moving on to awards and recognitions.
I have a motion before we do that.
I have a motion by Mr. Duncan.
Mr. President, at this time, I would ask that we add an item to our agenda, specifically under Consider Committee Reports. We have our Capital Outlay Committee report from this afternoon and our Finance and Audit Committee report from this afternoon on our agenda for approval. I'd also like to add our report from our Policy Committee to the agenda for final approval today. I'm specifically concerned about making sure that our newly adopted policy related to the compensation of our newly certified teachers is approved so that we can start the process of getting them paid. So if we have unanimous consent from the board, I would move at this time to add under Agenda 4, and Agenda 4C, our Policy Committee of the Whole report from October 18th, 2022.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So motion been made and second. So we need a vote on to waive the rules to allow us to add this to our agenda tonight.
And it does require unanimous consent.
So we'll call for a vote.
Question? Call for question.
Question?
No, call for vote.
I did.
This is the motion to waive the rules.
Correct.
Right.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, we'll consider that when we get to those reports. Again, we'll go back to the awards and recognitions. First, we'll recognize the recipient of the Enos Jake Bailey Jr. Above and Beyond Award, Ms. Simmons.
I would like to ask the recipient of the UNICEF Jake Bailey Jr. Award to come up, and that's Miss Joanne Weatherly. Would you please come up? And I'm going to read this, and then we'll have others come up too. Congratulations for being the recipient of the UNICEF Jake Bailey Above and Beyond Award. You are an inspiration to our students as you lead them to excellence in musical performance. You did an amazing job putting together Hammond High School homecoming band activities. I loved watching you lead and direct our band alumni in excellence. The spirit of the players on the band was contagious and the sounds were powerful. You're truly worthy of this award, and Jake Bailey would have beamed with pride if he had been watching you perform this night. God bless you. Sandra Bailey Simmons, school board member. Also, we want to call up the principal, Mr. Kyles, to come up from Hammond High. And any other folks from Hammond High that's going to speak, would you come up? Anybody that's going to say something? Anybody else? You're welcome to come. All right. Okay. All right. Before that, I want to present you with the award. Miss Cindy, go get pictures.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, certificate of recognition awarded to Joanne Weatherly, Hammond High Magnet School, in recognition of being the recipient of the UNICEF Jake Bailey Jr. Award. Okay. And then Coach Greer sent a message, and I want to read what he wrote and sent, because he had football practice and he couldn't be here. and of course it got small on me. I haven't known Miss Weatherly as long as many others. I met her 6 years ago when I began my teaching career, and I taught him at Southeastern, by the way. And I deemed myself very fortunate to have done so. Miss Joanne immediately offered me guidance, support, and best of all, friendship. I have met many superstar teachers in my short time at Hammond High Magnet School, and Miss Joanne is no exception. Since the day I met her, she has inspired me to be a better teacher, and I will continue that mission in her honor. Miss Joanne Weatherly deserves every accolade that TPSS can bestow upon her. I congratulate her on her accomplishments, and I emphatically thank her for her guidance, support, and friendship. Godspeed, Miss Weatherly. You have laid the groundwork for current and future teachers to follow. Congratulations, and that's from Matt. And also you have a gift certificate to Cracker Barrel. We splurged for you. All right, now, Mr. Kyle. Oh yeah, I thought we did it once. Oh, that was just okay. All right, all right. And we want those that are from Hammond High to please stand in her honor. Everybody that's from Hammond High. And any families. And of course, I have to recognize my daughter, Rachel Robbins from Hammond High, who teaches there. Okay. You go speak first, all right.
Words can't express what this award means to me tonight. I didn't know Mr. Bailey on a personal level, but I've taught band at Hammond High for over 33 years, and every year we'd have graduation, and during graduation, the band would always sit right next to where the dignitaries were. And we'd start playing the processional, and all the school board members would walk up and they'd sit on the stage, and they'd sit there through the whole time. And what, hour and a half, you know, there was people, they were ready to go home. And then we had the processional, and all the dignitaries come down the stairs, and they'd all go out, except for Mr. Bailey. He went far above his duty to stand by that Hammond High band, and it was over with every year. Hammond High band, thank you for coming. You did a marvelous job. Miss Weatherly, thank you. And that is what Far and Above is all about. And I thank him today for that, and I will never forget it. Thank you. I would like to just talk for just a few minutes on what has me standing here tonight. Like I said, I did teach at Hammond High Band for 33 years, and we used to march over 100 kids. It was phenomenal. In the band, we had the Valley Victorians, and if it was a class of 300, we'd have number 299, the lowest of the class. But when they got together, it wasn't about that. It was about bringing all these kids for the universe of music, and they were a family. They took care of each other. They supported each other. I mean, it's an incredible thing. It's not just about band. It's having a place. How many kids can I tell you, in my years of experience, has come to me and said, I would have never, ever made it through school if it wasn't for the band. And that has nothing to do with me. It does not. It has to do with all the kids. And since I retired in band, we've been through 7 band directors. And it's not their fault that they've all left. The reason is, well, in April, our band director just got up and left. And I go and I try to patch up the situation. And we're 4 kids in the band, 4. And they want us to play for a special education program. I thought, well, you know, 1 can do it, 4 can sure do it. So we got together and we played. And it did something to my heart. It did something to their heart. And then I heard the teachers that were there. It's been a long time since we had music in our schools. And then that's when I started talking to my kids. I say my kids, they're 50 years old now, but they're still my kids. And I mean, we're still like mother and daughter and mother and son. So I got with them and I said, look, we gotta do something. We gotta do something. They said, well, you know, so we got our heads together and said, let's do the best time, homecoming, where everybody comes home. And let's show these people we need music back in our schools. And it was above what I would ever dreamed of that took place at Hammond High Friday night. And once again, I hope you realize it was every one of those kids, and it wasn't just band. Tourettes have to have a band. Flag team has to have a band. It's just, we need it back in our schools. We need it in our middle schools. We need it in our junior high schools. So there, in 4 years, you could be marching 100 again, because these kids want this. They want this. And thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to come and to express to everyone what we want. And I will say this, and please take me up on it. If you do decide to this, I will give you any kind of help I possibly can, because I want to see it happen. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you.
I don't even know what I can say following that, but I know I can speak on my personal account from Ms. Weatherly. I think I came to Hammond High back in 2011. I think I was the youngest person on the staff. And there were a group of ladies that they came and found me actually and said, hey, what's your name? I was like, Michael Kyles. They said, oh, we've been told to look out for you. And so that's just what Ms. Weatherly and that group did. I didn't venture back to the band a lot, but one year I was blessed to walk with them for the entire parade season. And I will say there is nobody on this earth that I will walk the whole city of Slidell and Bogalusa for but Ms. Weatherly. And you can tell that she has a true love and passion for what she does, not only for the arts, but for the relationships that she has with her students. And we talk about band, but she's taught choir, piano. We started having a Christmas assembly where they would come in and play. I would go to the piano lab on days I was having a bad day. I would just go back there and sit. And she'd say, play something for Kyles, y'all. And the kids would just start going at it. But it just shows this past weekend the impact that she's had not only on our community, but our school. She's not lying. You had people from probably the class of 77 all the way up to 2000 and probably, when you retired with them?
I'm still there.
Yeah. I mean, up until this point, and she made it happen. I was just a platform for her to be able to do that, but it was pretty much, Kyle, this is what we do, and I said, yes, ma'am. And so it sparked the interest and it sparked a fire. Like if you were in Hammond from Wednesday, I could say until today, because they still talking about it. It is the rave of the district, and now there are other schools that have got that same fire and wanting to do the same thing to bring back the alumni members and to also reiterate the importance of having music in our schools. So Ms. Weatherly, like I said on Thursday, there's not enough flowers that we can give you to show our appreciation, but every opportunity that we have to do it, we most certainly will. On behalf of the faculty and staff at Hammond High, know that we love you. We always will. You always will have a home there, and just let us know what we need to do. Let us know what we need to do to get it back on track. But congratulations on this award that you received tonight.
I wanted to say this. I got a call from Benitez to come see the practice because I didn't know anything about it. And when I got there and I saw all these kids, grown-ups, playing these instruments, the sound was amazing. Then I went in the band room and watched her direct them and everything. I just couldn't get over how they all just responded, and how could they remember after all these years how to play those instruments. It was just incredible. And then homecoming night was really, really the grand finale, but we appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Now we'd like to recognize and consider the 2022 School Bus Safety Week resolution. Mr. Jinko.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. And I have to read a boring resolution after that exciting show of passion right there. 2022 School Bus Safety Week resolution. Whereas yellow school buses are the safest possible vehicles for children whose homes are far from school, requiring transportation according to state and national data. And whereas the local community is committed to providing a safe, crash-free environment for the public school bus riders in Louisiana who travel daily on our roadways. And whereas the exemplary safety performance exhibited each day by our school bus operators on the roadways of Louisiana ensures the highest level of safety for our motorists and student riders. And whereas local organizations are encouraged to support student and traffic safety activities associated with National School Bus Safety Week, October 17th through the 21st, 2022. And whereas motorists must remember to stop when a school bus has stopped with its stop arms extended and its red lights flashing. And whereas motorists should continue to be reminded about their role in ensuring the safety of children who are walking, bicycling, and getting off and on the school bus. And whereas Louisiana School Bus Safety Week, everyone is reminded to keep out a watchful eye for students going to and from school, to take extra precautions around students and school buses. Now therefore be it resolved that the Tangipahoa Parish School Board recognizes this year's School Bus Safety Week of Be Safe and Know the Danger Zone during the week of October 17th through the 21st, 2022, dated this 18th day of October, 2022. We had special recognition this week, but we also just like to remind everyone every day that our bus is on the road, please be mindful of that. And I know it's School Bus Safety Week, but I'd be remiss if I didn't recognize, are there any bus drivers in the audience? Any of, well, we're getting to them.
Oh, okay.
I got a script. Okay. Any of Miss Stilley's bus advisory council? Here you go, Miss Sandra. Last but not least, our great transportation staff. And we have an honorary transportation staff, Mr. Atlas Signorelli, if he will stand for us, please. Mr. Atlas, thank you.
You want to have Kim introduce them?
Ms. Notran, would you like to come introduce your staff?
Let her introduce the staff. That might be good.
You can come. Yeah. It's okay, Atlas.
Good evening. I am the new, is this on? My name is Kim Notriana. I'm the Transportation Supervisor, Risk Management for the school system. And I recently inherited this position. I want to thank the board members who supported me and believe in me. And I will tell you, it's been a rough 3 months, but we are finally making headway. We have a long way to go. We had our first professional day yesterday with the bus drivers. It went extremely well. And I want to thank you again for the support that you've given me, the belief that you've had in me. And I want to introduce to you my extraordinary team. I have Mr. Shane Zarang. He is an account clerk too. Shanta Henderson, she's an account clerk. Miss Rhonda Collins, she's my right-hand person. We call ourselves Bonnie and Clyde. I have Mr. Joseph Yargo. He is our recruiter trainer. Mr. Eric Ballard, he is over Ponchatoula and Champ Cooper area manager. Miss Chelsea Signorelli, she is our router and auditor. And Mr. Lamar Stewart, he is over the Hammond area, Midway, Natal Benny, Tickfaw, and Tass. We are currently absent our LaRonja area manager, and we hope to fill that position this week. but I want to make a comment to the community of Tangipahoa Parish. For a good while now, the parents and the kids have not had the best school bus service in Tangipahoa Parish. And I and my crew commit tonight to improve those things for the community. Transportation people, and I still call myself a bus driver. I was a bus driver for 26 years. Even though I've been a risk manager and now I'm the supervisor, I'm still a bus driver at heart. And I promise I will bring every bit of skill, training, and expertise that I have to make this a better transportation system for the people of Tangipahoa Parish and for their children. You guys deserve it, and I promise we'll give it to you. Thank you for your patience with us while we rebuild our department. Good evening.
Mr. President, we'll move to adopt the resolution at this point.
Motion's made to adopt by Mr. Duncan, second by Ms. Simmons. Is there any further discussion? Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, moving on to academic update. First, we'll have the update on the district's literacy plan. Dr. Linda Baker. Good evening.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, public. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the TPSS literacy plan, updated literacy plan for 2023. We'll begin with our mission, which is aligned to the district mission to provide every student a high-quality education and pathways to success by giving them every opportunity possible to develop their reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills so that they may cultivate the tools necessary for a happy and successful life. So that really is our mission for literacy at Tangipahoa Parish Schools, and we have an opportunity to talk with teachers frequently, daily, about that mission in all of our schools. Our goals are also aligned with the district goals in that we work on having kindergarten students start the year ready to learn, mastery at the 3rd and 8th grade levels of literacy skills, graduating on time with college and career credentials eligible for TOPS awards, and increasing attaining mastery and above for our diverse communities of children. For teachers, the way that we plan to achieve that mission is by having a Tier 1 high quality reading curriculum an ELA curriculum based on the standards of Louisiana. Additional time and intensity for students who are struggling learners achieving below grade level, to provide school leaders and teachers with scheduled time for collaborative planning and professional learning that are job embedded, to use literacy screeners and assessments, and to monitor students' progress frequently. And for the system goals, our literacy plan is aligned with those goals, especially around supporting and coaching teachers and school leaders to implement the Tier 1 program with fidelity and use high quality literacy resources, job embedded professional learning opportunities, to expand opportunities for parents and families to be engaged in their children's literacy instruction, and more opportunities and support for families around literacy resources. So the next thing that you're looking at is the TPSS District ELA instructional flowchart. Basically, that contains all of the must-dos and the resources sort of on a one-pager that tells us what we do. It begins with screening. As you know, we screen in all grades at the beginning of the year, or that are not LEAP, but in K through 2, we have our DIBBLs, Acadience Reading Screeners. We now use iReady Diagnostic to screen the rest of our children prior to, or at the beginning of the school year. So after screening, then we have paths for students who may be achieving below grade level. Those paths for those students to have additional opportunities for time and intensity on below grade level skills, as well as addressing front-loading grade level skills. So we go from screening to our core programs. You see all the core programs we use at every grade level. We have the minutes that we require on those core programs, and those are the minutes that are required to teach those programs effectively. You also see time for differentiated instruction, and that meets the needs of children in real time as teachers plan around and monitor the data that they've seen just the week before or the day before. And what those programs all contain and what they address. And then we get to the level where we are intervening with students who maybe have gaps in their education, may be performing below grade level, and that includes differentiated instruction, and those are our M-class interventions for K-2, CKLA, additional practice, accelerate learning, foundational supports, depending on the grade level, you'll see how it goes. And then, will you scroll up, Cindy? I'll show you an example of, no, the other way, sorry.
Okay.
Go to first grade, yeah. So keep going up. So this is just an example of what you see on that chart, sort of broken out in detail. So you can see the pieces that we use for instruction, how they're used, what we use in screening, what we use in our core program, and what we use, that's in K-2, that's our other core program, our knowledge core program, and then further up, and what we use and have available for intervention. So you see multiple resources for students, especially performing at below grade level skills, and monitoring data on a regular basis to ensure that we're meeting those needs in real time for students. In addition to that, the ELA plan covers our professional development. One of the things that is always exciting for me, especially since Ms. Stilley came and Dr. Fussell came, is that we have this comprehensive plan that sort of filters down all the way to the classroom. It's really an excellent communication plan, and the literacy plan is based on that. We start with the district ILT meetings. The goals are mentioned at every ILT meeting. Every activity in those meeting addresses the goals for literacy and achievement for students. The literacy plan is addressed the very same way. After the below the district ILT meeting comes those learning communities that are all led by supervisors. We do learning walks in schools periodically, every school in the district, and people like me, social studies, math people, those other people who are not literacy people, but are still literacy people, we go to those schools and have an opportunity to support leaders and support teachers. We monitor the implementation of the curriculum. We bring back that information and talk about what we can do to support teachers and leaders further in those schools around those things. So for me, those are very rewarding opportunities because it sure beats the heck out of answering emails for 8 hours a day, every day. So an opportunity to be close to children. The closer we get to children, the more that we can do. And I'm gonna go off script for a minute because I remember sorry, I remember when my husband was in the hospital many times, and things changed over time, and I noticed that nurses would come in more frequently And they would even give the patients bed baths, where it used to be orderlies, you guys remember, right? And so I asked a nurse one time, and she said, well, there's data that shows the more we touch a patient, the sooner they get well. The more the nurses touch, because those are the most qualified people that touch patients. Well, the more teachers come in contact with our students, the more opportunities they have to work with students around literacy, the more opportunities that students have to respond, the more they grow. It's just like the medical field. The closer we are to kids, the more growth we see. So really, that's what our plan is about. And I did want to also mention, sorry, I went off script there, guys.
Okay.
I also wanted to mention that we also, according to Act 108, we have the science of reading. We've taught, let me give you the data on that. So we are required by Act 108 to provide the science of reading instruction to all K through 3 teachers. We were involved in a pilot at the beginning of 2020 for 3 of our schools. Since then, we provided the training of our 350 K through 3 teachers. 260 teachers have completed the training, including 22 principals, 23 APs, 20 content leaders, and 122 teachers are currently enrolled in the training. Additional training that we are providing this year will be Learning Ally, among my favorites, which will provide digital and auditory to text to all of our students who are reading below grade level in the district, whether they have an IAP or an IAP, or if we just have any data that indicates that they're reading below grade level. So we'll have students that have access to text so that they can respond in the classroom like students who are reading on grade level.
Dr. Baker, the science of reading training, is state law now that every teacher have that training. They have that training. What, pre-K through second?
K through 12, but we are providing pre-K letters training as well. So pre-K will have
The science of reading. And what exactly is the science of reading training, in a nutshell?
So the science, that's dangerous. So the science of reading is really evolved over time around what we've learned about reading from research. So there's been lots of different sort of thoughts and trends in reading about how we teach reading, but over the last 25 years, we've had lots of scientific studies around reading. So it's not any longer what I feel about what my students might need or what might be best for them. We also have these incredible fMRIs, which are functional MRIs. And they actually show us what happens to brains of disabled readers, brains of struggling readers, and brains of accomplished readers. And we've actually watched those in the science of reading to see how we can provide additional instruction and support to change the way the brain works. So one day we can sit down and I'll talk to you about Broca's area and all the areas of the brain and how those work. But believe me, your K through 3 teachers are learning brain science about reading and how they teach and how it's necessary to teach to ensure that all students get not only the foundations of reading, but that deep knowledge piece to be able to respond and to be able, by the time they graduate from high school, to feel comfortable in moving into a community or a line of work that involves and requires knowledge of the world. If we don't provide that in our reading programs, that information about history and culture and government and those worlds that our students are not necessarily familiar with, when they're finished high school, they're not sure they want to go there because they don't feel confident that they can achieve there. So we also are required by law, based on our screening, to provide to parents the information regarding students who are reading below grade level. So we do send a letter We provide that information to those parents again at the middle of the year, at the end of the year, and we provide them with the number of resources that we use and provide additional time and small group for interventions for those students. And now we have the opportunity to provide summer learning for those students as well. So we also work with our Canopy Learning that provides additional support, pays our teachers to do interventions for students after school. This is a great opportunity for our students, our teachers to make additional money, and they provide tutoring for our students in K-3 after school. Do you have a question, Ms. Simmons?
No, but I just to confirm what you're saying, I was in one of the schools, it was DC Reeves, I think yesterday or the day before, and they were having one of those collaborative meetings during the school day with 3 or 4 teachers, and they had the various students and their names and where they were and the problems they were having, and they would collaborate together to see how they could raise that student's level to the next level and all. And I was just so impressed with that. And how, they want every child to achieve, not just this one or that one, but all of them. And they want them all, and they post them up. I mean, this is nothing new. This has been going on. But I'm impressed with that.
Once again, that's the medical model, the same kind of model that when you go to see the doctor, they take your blood pressure, they check your heartbeat, they check your pulse. Those are the indicators that predict whether or not you will be well and stay well. Well, we know through the science of reading what a kindergartner has to look like at the beginning of the school year, what they have to look like at the middle, what they have to look like at the end, in order to be on the trajectory to be reading on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. And so our goals are really set based on that science of reading, what children have to know and be able to do before they get to 3rd grade and by the time they're leaving 3rd grade and going to 4th grade.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I have another comment. You were talking about those scans, the brain scans on, when I was teaching at Southeastern, I had those and I used them in presentations. When you see the brain scan of a dyslexic brain, the left and right are not supposed to be the same size, but they basically are. So when you talk to or try to teach a dyslexic individual, they're fighting for dominance. The left and right side are fighting for dominance, and that's why they get confused. And I know this isn't,
But the good news is, if we have good instruction in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, we can change the brain. The brain is plastic. It's really very malleable.
That's right.
So what we do in the classroom is actually brain science. Don't you love it?
Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to just remind you, and I appreciate Dr. Fussell. These are, I know you've all gotten one of these, and this is another amazing opportunity for us to reach families when children are very young and ensure that children are being read to and that parents understand how important that is.
And tell us what that is. Dr. Baker, tell us what that is.
I think every board member got one of these. So these are our, these go to North Oaks for every new baby that's born. They get a book.
Yeah.
They get contact information. They get resources, a place to go for resources for our early reading, and a great Where's Spot book. I could read it to you, but so this is one of my favorite amazing things that we do.
And we have started doing that now. I think when you gave them to us, you told us that we were going to start, but now that this is actually, that's actually in place.
We have provided, we've probably sent
We've restocked
at least twice.
once a week. We even have some parents scanning the QR codes and they want more books.
That's great.
So that's part of phase 2.
And I did speak to Ms. Brabham today, and she has gotten excellent feedback from the hospitals. So they're delighted.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to update on the alternative education program. Miss Mia Lewis.
Give me a minute, Miss Lewis.
easy for us to keep.
Yes. I had to make
Thank-
sure.
Thank you. Oh, I was keeping mine anyway.
You have an extra?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There we go. That's it. Good evening. My name is Mia Lewis. I'm coordinator of the Alternative Education Program. It's kind of hard for me to stand still, but I'm gonna try the best I can. I wanted to thank you for the opportunity, first of all, to give you an update on the Alternative Education Program, because I have not had the chance to update you all on what we have been doing this year. But before I get started, I wanted to give a disclaimer, kind of like with contracts, when you say I, we, and I have my team with me, part of my team. So when I say we, if my alternative education crew can stand up, please, that's here. When I say we, I mean everybody that's working with me, because I cannot do it by myself. And I love and appreciate each and every one of them. So I'll get started. I won't be long. The Tangipahoa Parish Alternative Education Program, we redesigned a few years back in 2019. And when we redesigned, we had to look at staff and we had to determine who would best fit, because we were dealing with a change in mindsets. And it proved to be difficult, because the thought of going to alternative education was, I'm sending you to alternative education, you're going to go and do your time there, and you're going to be punished, and come on back, get yourself together, and let's get started again. So we had a philosophical change, and we wanted to focus less on the retribution and more on reform. We didn't want to not punish the children, but we wanted to look at the why of the behavior and not just look at the behavior. So in a nutshell, that's what we do every day. When the students come to us, we look at the why. We don't want to send them back and assume they'll make the right decisions. We want to give them as many tools as possible to do it. So one of the biggest changes, when they have their hearings, it says until completion of the program. It does not say for a certain number of days. And I really appreciate that part of it. When we look at reform, we're looking at what is their responsibility in it, but we also want to talk about how others can take responsibility for their actions as well. And we have those conversations with our students. But the main part is, what could you do differently? And that is the question that we ask our students every day. So when we look at when we're telling you what's going on at alternative education, we're looking at how can they make better decisions, even if the situation is not necessarily ideal all the time. Manage engine input. Okay, thank you. We want to address and discuss the needs of the school community. We want to build relationships. That's the biggest aspect, between educators and students. Building that relationship between an educator and student, it has the most profound change in a student's behavior. We want to reduce, prevent, and improve harmful behavior, repair harm, and restore positive relationships. And we want to resolve conflict. That's it. We want to resolve the fights. We want to resolve the other issues of conflict, the verbal altercations, and we want teachers to be able to teach in the classrooms. How can the alternative education program help my child if they're not being told, well, this is what you're going to do and this is how you're going to do it? I just feel like it's not working right for me. I don't feel that. Well, we're looking at a restorative approach. In a restorative approach, we look at the fact that people and relationships are harmed. When a student comes out of those hearings, they're mad. They're mad with the administrator, and the administrators are mad with them. So we have to figure out how to repair that, because we don't want to send the student back on the campus mad with the administrators. Justice identifies the needs and the responsibilities rather than focusing on establishing just their guilt. We want accountability. We want them to know that they did wrong. We tell them every day how they can change and what they can do, and we do modeling for them, and they understand the impact and the harm that's been done. The offender, victim in school, they all have direct roles in the justice process. Everybody takes part in it. So when a child does something and you see all of these people around when it's going on, once you come to the alternative education program, they're with us. So we have to make that work for them. So when they see those people again, they know the best way to deal with the situation. The offender is responsible for harmful behavior, repairing harm, and working toward positive outcomes. The students are responsible for their behavior, period. Opportunity is given to make amends and express remorse. Once you're there, we let you go back. You have completed the program. It's time for you to go back, and it's time for you to do what you have to do in order to improve what you need to improve. So we're helping the kids get better because we're helping them socially, emotionally, academically, and behaviorally. As we change, we're asking a lot of questions, we're calling a lot of people, so we're just asking that you understand that we're doing the best we can. We have a lot of things going on, but just continue to answer your phones when we call, because that's the biggest help, and everybody has been very helpful with giving us everything we need, because we're not dealing with the students that come hopping and skipping and jumping to us every day. You know, when we have orientations, the parents are pulling them in there, and the parents don't want to come. So they have the attitudes of, I really wish I weren't here right now. So just continue to support us in that. With the alternative education overview, we have several components, and one of the components is the binder you have. And I'm giving you this binder because you're going to see students on campuses. Principals will mention students coming to campus with these binders. The binders are used throughout the program to keep all of your work in, and it's a way for them to organize. The binder is a physical way to organize, but it's also a physical way to organize your mentality and your mental state. So we have different aspects of the binder. The most important aspect in that binder that you have is their social emotional learning journal. Mr. McCray is our social emotional teacher, so he's going to make sure I get everything I need to know about that journal. But that's the most important part, and our students fill that journal out every morning. They will also be digging in with panorama, and as they fill out their panorama, how are you doing today, they'll still be filling the journal out because they're used to typing, but we want to get them used to writing because they didn't like to do it. Capital letters, periods, things like that. So they're doing that. Students use their binder. They're using it to be responsible, and it consists of all components. The binder has to be kept neat, organized, and it will be checked. Now, the students that go back the first 9 weeks, I'll defer the first 9 weeks because we're just getting into it, and some of them got a little off track, but their binders are in pretty good condition. The student is required to do 4 hours of community service before they complete our program. the student and parent are required to do 4 hours of a parent and a student class called Creating Lasting Family Connections. They are have to come to orientation. They're required to maintain 75% in all of their classes. They're required to attend academic behavioral interventions as deemed necessary. 95% positive attendance, so you can't miss more than 3 days. It's actually 2 point something, but we rounded it up to 3. You cannot have a major referral. You're required to participate in the SEL class, and SEL class takes place every day, even though we have a block schedule. They go to that every day. And they're required to present a final project. The final project is a vision board. And when they present the vision board, they do the vision board in SEL, but they have different things that they have to do in order to even be able to present the vision board. And one of them is you have to come dressed in an appropriate uniform for your school. So we're not asking them to dress up in your Sunday best. We want you dressed uniform appropriate. We want our boys in belts. We want the pants pulled up. We want you looking nice, like you're going to look the first day you step back on campus. They have individualized academic plans. The student has ownership of their own data. If you look in the binder, they have academic goals. We print their transcripts for them when they go back to school. They're talking about their transcripts and the units they need. They have daily remediation and intervention embedded into their schedule. We have an intense focus on strengthening literacy skills. Dr. Baker would love that. Our kids, they read, which was, a lot of it was shocking, to be honest with you, because that's one of the first things I do is give them the diagnostic test. And a lot of our students, it's not the skill, it's the will. Intense focus on strengthening resiliency and self-efficacy as far as their behavior skills. All of that deals with relationships. We use Tier 1 curriculum. We don't use anything else. And they have access to credits and online instruction. We're currently returning 43 students to their campuses, and they've completed 15 units of credit recovery just for the first 9 weeks. So they're going back, and as they complete these, their credit recoveries, that increases motivation. So we're working on that. With our discipline policies, they're strictly aligned with the district. We do not differ. Dress codes, cell phones, disruptions, vaping, school bus discipline, all of the above. We go strictly with what is aligned with the district. We have a final rubric that we use with integrity. There are 3 signatures that have to be signed off on in order for the student to return to school. They get 2 points for each of the aspects on the rubric. And the first one is improved grades, community service, have they followed the program discipline, attendance expectations, have you met your social emotional growth target, have you met your your academic growth target, and how did you do on your presentation? You have to do a presentation to complete the program. And then on the day of their presentation, they are given questions to answer. Write down. Did I lead in serving my community? Are my grades better now than when I entered the program, including my E-2020, when we have to give them those classes, and those are mainly for our junior, senior students. Did I meet my social emotional growth target? Did I meet my academic growth target? And did I meet the required number of successful days? And am I ready to go back to school? So a lot of our program is focused on reflection. If you can think about the way that we implement, it's constant reflection. And it's the 3 fingers that are pointing back at you that we try to get our students to understand. We have a parent-student program contract. I won't go over all of it, but it pretty much aligns with what the district has on their contracts for the students. We want the parents to be involved. We need you to take responsibility, and we need you to be a partner, a true partner with us as we implement our program. We need you to communicate and let us know when you need us, and we're going to let you know when we need you. And we really don't have a lot of problems with our parents. And students have their responsibilities as well. If they miss more than 3 absences, it will extend their stay. The program discipline, we explain all of it to the students, and they sign at the end to let everybody know that they understand what the policies are. Things we need, we tell the parents all the time. We just need patience, we need understanding, we need cooperation, and we need support. That's it. And lastly, I just want to take a minute, and this is like not an update-ish, but I thought about this because my students can't thank you. And to be honest, when they see Mr. Jinko or Mr. Porter, they don't want to thank them because they're looking like they put me out of school. But the program is necessary. It's the foundation of changing communities. Our students are going to be the ones that change these communities. They don't know this yet. So they have something to offer. We have to help them figure out what it is. And that's what this program is doing. And you all investing in this program is what is helping us help them figure it out. So I wanted to take a minute to just point that out because they're visionaries. And a lot of them, they think, they're thinkers. We just have to pull it out of them. It's not the skill, it's the will. And lastly, I see Miss Sandra at my school all the time. Sometimes I don't see her, but I see nuggets that she's left. She comes and she works with my kids, my dyslexic kids. When I have a child that needs to be worked with, she's there. Mr. Jinko, Dr. Fussell, Miss Stilley, everybody supports us. Mr. Moore, he knows the vision he has for that school, and he's holding us accountable for that, and I appreciate that. And he calls and he checks and he makes sure that things are going well, and if I have a question or if he has a question, we talk about it, but he always offers that support. Dr. Hatcher has been coming constantly, giving us support, mentoring the students, bringing chess games, helping them get things to help them think. He wants to make sure that they're thinkers. And Ms. Patricia Morris has been just a blessing to our campus. She's bringing things to our campus that we have never had in the past. We just gave the ASVAB test for the first time. We're waiting on the results for our kids. They were so excited just to see Mr. Wascom come on campus and talk with them. It gave a different feel. They want to be included like everybody else. They want to be a part of something. They just have to figure out what it is. So we're trying to help them figure it out. We appreciate the support. And if you have any questions, the floor is open.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you for that wonderful report.
Thank
yeah.
you.
We appreciate everything you and your team, what you're doing every single day there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to consider committee reports. Capital Outlay Committee of the Whole from this evening, October 18, 2022. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
Mr. President, before we take up these reports, I do think that a waiver of our rules would be required. We do have a policy in place that requires a one-day layover before we consider any sort of committee reports. I understand that there was some reasons why we had to do it this way, but our policy does require for transparency's sake, that before we finalize any sort of committee reports, that we make sure that we have at least a 1 to 2 day layover so that the general public has an opportunity to process all of that work that we've done, and we've given them the opportunity to review that and provide us public input before we take final action on all of that.
So that's your motion to waive the rules to go
So
ahead
that
and
we can
allow us
consider these committee reports.
committee reports. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Ms. Simmons.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do we need to waive the rules? I mean, we already have it, we already waived the rules for item C, but for items A and B, they're already on the agenda, even though it's against our policy, it's already on the agenda because we've already placed it on the agenda. So does that meet the criteria of the policy?
Mr. Duncan?
Well, my argument is that the policy requires a 1 day layover. And if we're not going to follow our policy, then the board should take specific action recognizing that we are not following our own policy, and that we are instead waiving our own rules so that we can violate that policy. I mean, I think it's important that we recognize the fact that we're not following our own policy and that we are voting to do that because we have a good specific reason to do so.
But we also understand that there's a reason why we do that, and it's for fiscal reasons. For instance, being the chairman of capital outlay, there's items that come up that we need to move on quickly in the best interest of our school system, which is why we do this in the first place. So I believe that our policy has some leeway there. As long as we advertise and we place it on the agenda ahead of the meeting, the intent is to give the public notice, and I think we met that intent.
Yeah, and the only thing I'm not saying that we shouldn't waive the rule. I'm just saying that we need to make sure that we're recognizing that we're violating our policy and that we have good reason to do it. For the public's benefit, it was our original intention to have these committee meetings 2 weeks ago, which is
Right.
what we generally do. We have our committee meetings 2 weeks before the final board meeting. We advertise what we're going to be considering at those committee meetings. We then publish a report. We have it on the TV, everything that we did. Everybody knows what's going for final consideration. It gets put in the news or whatever, and then 2 weeks later, we generally come in and do final action. We weren't able to do our committee meetings 2 weeks ago, so we had to reschedule them to right before this meeting. That's not our general practice, but I also don't think it would be appropriate to delay final action on all of these things by an additional month.
I'll make a motion to waive those rules so we can vote on this tonight, but I have to agree, we need to have our meetings when one meeting a month is not suitable.
We already have a motion, correct?
Yeah, we have a motion and a second.
So we'll call the question on the
So we'll
waiver.
call the question as to whether we're going to waive the rules to allow us to consider final approval of these committee reports.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, so we will now consider the Capital Outlay Committee of the Whole for October 18, 2022. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Toller,
A second.
second by Ms. Abrams. Any discussion? Call for vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the Finance and Audit Committee from tonight. A motion to adopt?
I'll make that motion, Mr. President.
Motion by Mr. Bush,
I will second Mr. Bush's motion.
second by Mr. Toller. Any discussion?
I don't think it's ever happened.
Call for a vote.
I'm not through with you yet. I still got a month and a half.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
C, on Policy Committee.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Duncan,
Second.
second by Ms. Simmons. Any discussion? Call for vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
Next, on Superintendent's reports and recommendations. First, we'll consider approval for the support of Louisiana Association of School Superintendents Accountability Proposal Resolution.
Yes.
Dilly?
Yes, Mr. President. So I have a resolution I'd like to read, and this is a resolution that from the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, LAS, which is also has sort of joined forces with the Louisiana School Board Association, which I'm not sure if that's ever happened before. I guess it probably has, but for the first time, it seems like we've joined together an agreement of this resolution. But it's to support LAS and the accountability proposal resolution for accountability. So I'd like to take a minute to read the resolution. I think it's up on the screen. So this is a resolution expressing support for the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, LAS, proposal to reimagine the Louisiana Public School Accountability System, and urge the Louisiana Department of Education State Superintendent Dr. Cade Brumley and the Board of Secondary and Elementary Education, Bessie, to adopt their proposal instead of the current proposal presented by the Bessie Accountability Working Group in August of 2022, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Whereas last year, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education began conducting an accountability working group to propose changes to the public education accountability system, whereas those meetings sought and accepted very little input from public education stakeholders such as teachers, superintendents, school boards, but rather focused primarily on the input from the Louisiana Department of Education and a few self-proclaimed education reform organizations, some led by former LDOE staff members from the Superintendent John White administration. Whereas the publicly stated goal of the accountability working group was to lower the number of high schools earning letter grades of an A or B under the current system that has, in its core principles, been in place since the John White administration, whereas the LDOE and the self-proclaimed reformers used the mantra that Louisiana high schools and school boards were gaming the system to inflate high school letter grades, whereas the evidence they cited was, one, the proportion of A and B high schools was higher than the proportion of A and B elementary schools, and those proportions should be the same. And two, TOPS-bound high school students were also taking career and technical classes and work keys exam, and those students should not be given that choice. Whereas the result was a proposal that reverse engineered the high school accountability formula to deny points for high school students merely being proficient in high school content and graduating on time, whereas the reverse engineered formula was then overly weighted on high school students doing post-secondary high school work as the only way for a high school to earn an A. Whereas the reverse engineered formula would result in only a handful of select academic admissions high schools earning an A, whereas when Bessie undertook the new formula at its August meeting, it faced significant pushback that the proposal was bad for students, parents, teachers, and communities, whereas in response to the opposition and despite the chiding of the self-proclaimed reformers, Bessie urged the LDOE to go back and seek more input from educators, whereas the Louisiana Association of School Superintendents, LAS, with the assistance from the Louisiana School Board Association, LSBA, created a proposal to reimagine and completely rework the defective accountability system, not just for high school, but also for elementary and middle school. Whereas the last accountability proposal focuses on student proficiency of grade level content, whereas the last accountability proposal uses a pre- and post-test model similar to that being successfully used in Florida, where students are tested in the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year to show evidence of how far that individual student grew toward proficiency of that grade level content, whereas last accountability proposal aligns TOPS, work keys, and for the first time ever, ASVAB, the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, so that whether high school students move on to college or a skilled trade or the military, they will be considered successful. And whereas last accountability proposal uses a simple 100-point grading scale familiar to students and their parents, the general public, instead of this arbitrary 200, 150, newly proposed 125-point scale that has been the hallmark of the past accountability system and current accountability system. Whereas the last accountability proposal also limits testing to that mandated by the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, noting that Louisiana overtests our students. Whereas the last accountability proposal also recognized successes that are ignored in the current and Bessie proposed system, special education students learning the basic life and commercial skills that will allow them to enter the workforce, students who continue to strive and earn their high school diploma beyond the expected four-year window. Whereas the last accountability proposal has resisted running simulations to see what the letter grade distribution would be, as the system was designed to focus on student achievement and not to reverse engineer as a result. Therefore, the Tangipahoa Parish School Board does not hereby endorse or express its support for the last accountability proposal, or does hereby endorse, sorry, thank you, Mr. Duncan. Further, the Tangipahoa Parish School Board urges the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to set the discussion and consideration of the last accountability proposal on the November agenda of the Bessie Academic Goals and Instructional Improvement Committee and the full Bessie meeting set for November the 10th, 2022. Further, the Tangipahoa Parish School Board urges the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, and specifically Bessie member Mr. Ronnie Morris, to support the adoption of the last accountability proposal and take such actions as are necessary to move toward implementation of the proposal. And finally, the Tangipahoa Parish School Board directs the superintendent of the Tangipahoa Parish School System to deliver a certified copy of this resolution to the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, each elected and appointed member thereof, Superintendent Cade Bromley, Governor John Bell Edwards, Senator Cleo Fields, Representative Lance Harris, and each member of the legislative delegation of Tangipahoa Parish School System, this done and signed this 18th day of October, 2022.
I'll make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Dominguez,
That
second
was a lot
by
of reading.
Mr. Duncan.
Thanks for that. Does.
Yes, okay.
Any discussion?
I can sum that up. We're testing our students wrong. It's not an indication of their knowledge or their progression. And I'm glad to see that finally somebody's making a move. And I say, I spoke with Dr. Cade Bromley not that many weeks ago. He's got some wonderful ideas. And if we can support him as a school system or a state, we'll see things different. And so that's a long thing Miss Stilly read, but this is a welcome change and it needs to happen.
Okay. Call for a vote.
Voting is open. Voting is closed. Motion passes unanimously.
All right, board member comments. Mr. Bush was doing a good job. We'll ask him to lead off again.
Read that resolution.
Yeah, please.
The parts I didn't get.
Maybe read it in Spanish.
On a serious note, we lost one of our students a couple weeks ago to a tragedy. I want to remember that. My heart hurts still today for that young man and his family in the Hammond High School community. But also, let me add this. I was at the homecoming game Friday night at Hammond High School. And I'm going to tell you, what's been said about it in our community is exactly the truth. It was an atmosphere. It was electric. It was packed. I walked around, talked to many students. I mean, it was one of the best high school football games I've ever attended at Hammond High School. And it was so well organized, and of course the team won on and off the field. And congratulations to that whole community at Hammond High and their staff, because it was a tremendous night, and I was so happy to be able to attend.
All right.
I want to say the same thing. It was electrifying when you just drove down that River Road there to turn into the school. You could see it was the people were excited. Just
in the park on the road.
Yeah, I saw it on the road. We parked out in that front field, and I mean, it was just amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And of course, all those participants of the alumni band and the cheerleaders and the dance section, all of it. It was a very electrifying, exciting time, and the school spirit was amazing that night. And the team has just done incredibly well.
Mr. Duncan?
Yeah, the only thing I can add to that was that, that we had the day before as well with the parade leading up to the game day, the community really, and then the pep rally at Kate Square. It was just wonderful to see the Hammond community continuing to just get behind its schools and just continue to support all the work that's being done to improve our schools and have that community spirit. It's definitely a very gratifying and wonderful experience. We live in a great parish and a great community, and very proud of them. The only thing I would, and what Ms. Weatherly said is absolutely true. Part of what really got that together was this drive within the community, this desire in the community to rebuild our band program, and I'm hopeful that we're able to take whatever actions we need to take as a board to support that effort. What we saw was a demonstration of the power of both the wonderful teachers and educators, but also the music program and specific, those spirit programs specifically, and what they can bring to a community when they're done right.
Ms. Abram?
I'm going to piggyback on that because I've seen firsthand at Independence High School, just 4 years ago, when I became a school board member, we didn't have a band at Independence anymore. And lo and behold, Herman came there, and we have 80 band members now.
Wow.
Not one of those students in his band program at Independence have ever picked up a music instrument. He has taught them in high school, in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, how to play instruments, and he's built 80 members in his band already.
Amazing.
So music brings a lot. I am living proof of that. Mr. Dan King was one of the best band directors that Tangipahoa Parish ever saw. And music has a way of just bringing people together and make them work as a team, and that's what you're seeing at Hammond High. You know, all of those kids that came from past years, they know what the pride was like at Hammond High, just like we knew what the pride was at Independence High. And if we bring more people back like that and let these kids see what they can be part of, it's just going to grow more and more. Music just soothes the soul, and I do believe that. And I also want to announce that in the public school system, we're going to be doing Penny Power in the next couple of weeks. Penny Power will start October 24th on the north end, then we'll move to October 31st, and then November the 7th on the south end. So make sure when your kids come home and ask for pennies and dimes and checks and dollars, you know it's going to a good cause for TARC with children with special needs.
All right, Mr. Toller?
Yeah, just a couple quick things. This last Friday night, we had an unfortunate event at Bogalusa where Sumner played the Friday night football game. I don't say this as a insult to Bogalusa PD or the school system in Bogalusa, but we have had issues in the past with that particular football game. And it's unfortunate because on the field was some good sportsmanship, and there's some good people and students and faculty at that school. But I would be remiss if I didn't say, as a school board member representing the Sumner area, it has been made very vocal to me that they have no intentions of going back to Bogalusa for a home game. Bogalusa is welcome to come back to Sumner, and we're welcome to play at a neutral place. But the sheer terror of some of the parents and coaches and players and cheerleaders is understandable. And I don't think it will serve us well to go back into that football stadium anytime soon. So I just want to make sure that I point that out, and I know I've already shared that with the superintendent, and also the principal's already called me about it, so just want to make that public. The other thing is we also in the last couple of weeks, we had a good example of a self-help project in our school system. It was in Ponchatoula, I think with the help of Mr. Bush maybe and Rose. Mr. Coach Harper did some improvements around their softball field, and it was a very good example of the parents, coaches, students putting together the labor to get something done, and I believe we're going to support that through our capital funds. I encourage other schools to pick up on that. You know, I know we've had reservations in the past about those type of projects, but in our situation with funds like they are, when one of our athletic programs or whatever, when they come forward with a plan to do something like that, I think we should support that financially because it's better off for us and it gives them more ownership in their program. So I applaud Coach Harper and Ponchatoula for doing that. And then the last thing I want to put a plug in for is talking about bands, and tonight was a good example. Sumner needs a band. We've had that before, and we've lost interest. I know it's hard to find a band director, but I want to put a public plug in there that we need to get that started again back at Sumner. The students have been passing around, just a list of names of people that are asking for it. So I want to support that any way we can. So I publicly ask the superintendent and Mr. Jinko, whatever we can do to help support that, let's try to advertise whatever we can do because the arts are that important. And with that, I will yield.
Okay. Yes, piggyback on his band thing, I think when we passed the half-penny sales tax, because we did that, we were going to be able to get some funds from the state, and I do believe that was part of the plan, right, Ms. Dilly?
Yep.
To do arts and music and extracurricular. So hopefully when that money starts coming, we'll be able to add those band programs in the elementary schools again. So that's a good reminder. Mr.
And we actually have a team that's planning on that, and at one of our upcoming meetings, we're going to have them come and present to the board what they're doing to plan, on those, expanding the music programs and band in our schools using those additional MFP funds.
When y'all have that meeting, make sure you invite Jared, please. Mr.
Yes, he's on.
Okay, good.
Well, my other thing was I wanted to make sure and invite everybody out to Ponchatoula this weekend. They're having the Tula Q Strawberry Festival's Fall Fest barbecue. A group was created, Louisiana Strawberry Preserves, which are former chairman, king, queen, royalty. We're going to be selling jambalaya out there, this weekend. So it's all Friday, all day Saturday, or Friday afternoon, all day Saturday and Sunday. So come out and support. The Tula Q funds go for much needed. It's like a fundraiser for area activities. And then you're talking about alumni night, homecoming. This week is Ponchatoula's homecoming. Last week we had alumni night, and we probably had a good 100 people come back just to perform on the field as well. So it's kind of nice to include our communities, bring everybody back. So it was fun. We had a great time, and I think they'll continue to do it. We did it before COVID, and we'll continue to do it.
I think we have a clip of your dancing at that. Do you have that?
I hope we don't have a clip of that.
From your Wavette performance. Do we have that?
It was a lot of fun, and we had a good time. So it's good to bring the community back in. So thank you.
We're playing an alumni football game next year.
All right, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to the Hammer Knife football team. I've felt the same electricity that I felt back in '71 when we actually won the state championship. I was a member of that state championship team. But the guys, this is the first time I've seen that level of confidence and camaraderie. I never saw that, ebb for 1 second, even when the other team was leading. But secondly, what I want to do is I want to send a shout out to all the principals and teachers, the disciplinarians, and for every person who has an opportunity to be involved in making decisions about whether we suspend students from school or whether we send them to the alternative school. I know that they're doing a great job. I mean, it's pretty obvious that, Ms. Morris and Ms. Lewis gave us a very uplifting report on how they're handling things there. My concern is with students who go there, who are first-time offenders, who have good grades, that they're not getting enough consideration. I know that we have to keep the discipline level of our schools at a level where our students can have a safe place to learn. But I do think that, and I implore and encourage, all of our faculty who are involved in making those decisions about our children to give them every consideration. My fear is that the community, the African American community, is going to get the impression that we've gone back to the zero tolerance policies that we operated under, 4 years ago when I first became a member of the board. I do appreciate the level of improvements we've made at the alternative schools, but I am also concerned about the number of children that are there. So my plea for all the personnel who are responsible for making these decisions is, let's be compassionate, let's be great. Let's follow Ms. Stilley's motto of how to make our schools better in Tangipahoa Parish.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'd like to recognize the scouts that are present tonight at the meeting and hope that you receive the credit that you come here for.
Did we do a good enough performance? Okay.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank y'all for coming. This time we'll move to enter executive session. Mr.
Move to enter into executive session to consider the cases of Saboyne Harris versus Tangipahoa Parish School System, Andrea Hart versus Jason Griffith and et al., and the Joyce Marie Moore versus Tangipahoa Parish School Board matters.
All right.
You want to second it?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tolan.